All right, welcome back to the Youngest Real Estate Podcast with Nate and Johanna. Today we're going to be talking about how to grow your business through leverage. Johanna, let me ask you, at what point in your business do you think that you need leverage?
I actually think that you need leverage before you think that you need it. So what I mean to say is you probably need to hire on before you have enough business to fully cover that position that you're hiring on to. Because I think that if you don't hire on before you actually need that help, what's going to happen is you're going to get to the point where you're going to be so overwhelmed that by the time that you try and take on that leverage, you're going to be scrambling not only to keep up with the business that is probably already in disarray from you not having the help needed to organize it, to also trying to train someone and probably poorly training them.
Teaching the bad habits because
exactly.
you're running around like crazy.
Exactly. So I would say, starting off, whether you're coming into a team or as a single agent and trying to figure out what your leverage is going to look like, hire them on and make that expense. It is going to hurt, but in the long run, it's going to make you more and it's going to get you further a lot quicker.
Okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. Okay, so you said people should get leverage before they ever need it. Now, with that being said, I don't think we're recommending for a brand new agent to go hire on like an ISA or something like that, right? At what point do you think that there's like some like precursors, some signs that maybe leverage is needed, right?
I mean, but why not though, right? Okay, so if you're starting off as a single agent, you're trying to create the leverage or come into leverage.
So I think what you're saying, like, I agree with you, but I also think that there becomes a point where it's a double-edged sword, right? So like I think being a new agent, you shouldn't hire on leverage until you start to see that there's certain things that are needed, right? Like, so I think what you're talking about is you don't want to get to the point to where it's just like the house is flooding, and at that point you're just trying to turn off all the hoses. Well, the house is already flooded, like, you're a little bit late. But if you start to see sinks drip, right, like you start to see cracks start to form, that's whenever you're starting to say, okay, this is my capabilities of what I can do on my own, where it makes sense.
Okay, I agree. Yes, you have to figure out. You're right. You have to play the role to figure out what you are going to leverage out and what is going to be your 20%. So yes, you do have to get get in the rhythm of things.
Yeah, you have to get a gauge, because the last thing you want to do is just go off and start spending money on leverage that you don't need. And here's the thing. Sometimes your goals and what the amount that you're doing doesn't require leverage, right? And I think that that's where some people mess up, is that they try to go add on leverage, and then they, whether that be in the form of a showing assistant and ISA, and then they get mad because they're spending this money and they're not seeing a return on investment. Like, I'll tell you, I am a firm believer in, like, there's times where you need leverage and then there's times that you don't, right? Like, especially if you're growing and you're doing everything that you need to, you're going to get to a point, and I think you and I have felt this pain, right? Where you start to see cracks in the foundation. You're like, okay, like, it's getting to that breaking point. Like, this is the most I can do by myself. And I think that's whenever you start incorporating in that leverage, right? So now that we've kind of identified when you need leverage, when you should start to do that, why should people have leverage?
Okay, because you're only going to get so far on your own. And here's, I'm going to backtrack beforehand. Is you first have to decide whether you actually want to create that leverage or you want to come into it.
That's a great
And then
point. What
each one is going to cost, and then just do that analysis and see what works better for you. I came into leverage. It is, everyone says that starting off, it's costing me more. I think in the long run, though, I'm getting further ahead than someone who has chosen to go the single agent route and create the leverage on their own, and not entirely on their own. Mind you, there is the the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, like, playbook. There is, like, teams that you can go replicate and then just do that. So you're not recreating the wheel as a new agent and creating that leverage.
You do bring up a good point, though, in the sense of, like, it's easier to go into something that somebody's already created than build it out yourself. Because anytime you build it out yourself, it's going to be a whole hell of a lot more growing pains. It's going to be a whole lot more painful.
It's going to be a lot slower.
It's going to be a lot slower, to whereas if you use somebody else's system and you basically, take it and you run with it, it's already built out for you. You're not having to... And I'm going to talk about this later on the podcast, but you're really being that politician. You're shaking hands and kissing babies.
It's going to be more costly also because you're trial and error. Whereas if you're coming into it, or if you are able to find someone who's willing to share, their systems and what worked for them and what didn't, then you are saving the cost of trial and error. But if you're going to create them yourself, because if we are entrepreneurs, and there are entrepreneurs who enjoy the build out process, and if you want to go through that, that's great. But you are going to spend more trying to figure out what systems work, training up on those systems, and then realizing it doesn't work, jump on to the next one, etc. So there is going to be additional costs up front also in trying to create that.
Not to mention time. Time is money. And it's going to take a lot of time to figure out which system works best for you.
Exactly. And which brings me back to the point of, yes, am I giving up more of a commission than I would by being on a team versus an individual agent? But I'm paying for leverage that's already built in. I'm just, coming in, implementing it, and then running with it. And there's really nothing slowing me down. There is so much less friction for me that's just getting me that much further ahead, and that much closer to, whatever finish line versus another agent who has all the friction and who's going to trip and fall along the way.
Now, I want to take this down a fun path. Normally, we'd go and talk about like, oh, great, this is how great leverage is. There's also a lot of people, not only that are real estate agents, but just entrepreneurs in general, who have a hard time of letting go, right? So let's go. I want to talk about the struggles of basically leveraging out your business, because at the end of the day, people want to be so hands-on. They want to have all of that. Let me ask you, if somebody were to come to you and say, hey, I just don't trust that these people can do the same thing that I can do, what would you say to them?
I would actually push back and say, I would argue that there's someone out there that's going to do it better than you.
I would take it down a different, and I agree with you, but I would phrase it in a different way, in the sense of there are certain activities that you have no business doing. Like if they're not money producing, right. You're doing the $7 an hour job to where yes. That's not something that you need to be doing. You need to be doing everything that's making you, that's basically propelling your business forward.
But that's not where the pushback comes from. The pushback in every entrepreneur of letting go is thinking that we can do it the best, that we can do it better than anyone else. That's why we're so reluctant to let go. I agree. Yes, we were just talking about this. I love cleaning. I love cleaning my space. I love cleaning my flips. Can I hire it out for a lot less than what my dollar per hour cost is? Absolutely. Why am I so bad at letting that go and leveraging that out? Is because I truly believe to my core that I can clean my space the best, and I'm going to leave it the best way because that's how I want it. I say that to say that the pushback from entrepreneurs in letting go or in saying, and just letting go is because we think that we are the best person for every single role that we're trying to fill, and that's just not the case.
No, it's not. It's not even that it's not necessarily the case. It's just your time is better suited in other places. Like right. As much as you enjoy cleaning, right? Cleaning is generally going to take a couple of hours. That's a couple of hours that you could be making phone calls. You could be door knocking. You could be finding a prospective buyer for said property. Like, it's so
much fun though.
Yeah, but this is a prime example of people have a hard time of letting go. And they push back, and they're like, well, nobody can do it like I do. And it's like, well, that's great. And I don't think you should leverage out the big activities. For instance, myself, right? Like I'm a huge prospector. I don't think I should have somebody making my calls for me, because at the end of the day, nobody can do it like how I do it.
That's the 20% of your 20%.
Exactly. And that's my money producing activities. Right. That's what propels my business. Let me rephrase. Like the getting documents, moving around, sending to different people, that's an easy leverage point where I can then go hand that off, and that takes a stress off my plate. That gives me more time to go do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, if someone asks, if someone says, well, or I guess the answer to your question is, I don't want to let this go because for whatever reason. I mean, just reframe your way of thinking. Think about it that way. Okay, whether it's the money or the time or the skill, your time, your skills, your money is better served doing the top 20% of your top 20%. So I would say you have to go through the grind to find the rhythm, to find the things that you are best suited for, and then find the things that are even within that, there's going to be something that you are even better suited for, and it's going to be so niche and so small that you should be, I think, no one else is going to know better than you what that is. And then everything else that's not the 20% of your 20%, you absolutely must hire out if you really want to increase your sales and grow your business.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to know the pain points of your business for sure, except for you, because it's your business. But all right, so let's talk about the different leverage points that you can do, right? Obviously, we have a ton. We have transaction coordinators, we have showing assistants, VAs, ISAs, you name it, right? And those are all leverage points, and those are all things that can help you grow your business and take it to that next level. Tell me which of those do you think are some of the most important, and it's which one would you say is the first one that people should look into, right? Showing assistants, transaction coordinators?
I would say showing assistance. This is, again, and this goes back to, and I've said this on the podcast before, I made the mistake of just not asking around enough, but realizing that if you really want to grow as an agent, you want to become listing heavy. In fact, you probably only, to really grow, you probably only want to take on listings and then even leverage out buyers. But that just terrifies me to my core. I'm still trying to overcome that. But I do want to get to that point where I only do listings and everything else is leveraged out. That is the highest and best use of, I think, any agent's time in order to grow our business, because being a listing agent will bring on more business. So if you do want to be, a top producing agent, in order to do that, you have to be listing heavy. And in order to do that, a buyer's assistant or a buyer's agent / showing assistant, or a pair, a combination of the two, is probably one of the first things that I would argue you should leverage out.
Okay, what about this? What about the people that say, there's agents?
Transaction coordinator.
Well, which one? Buyer's agent or transaction coordinator? You have to pick one.
Okay, transaction coordinator, because you're not going to let go. I feel that you're not going to let go of your buyers right away, whereas a transaction coordinator is going to take a huge load off of your plate by getting just all of your documents and all the back end admin stuff.
I think transaction coordinators, the ROI, the return on investment is insane.
Highest, yeah.
Is insane. I think even if you're a new agent, I think transaction coordinators are absolutely critical, because there's just certain things, once again, that are not worth your time. Yeah. You're better off finding new business, because what a lot of agents will do is they'll get bogged down on, they'll have 3 transactions going, and they're trying to be, the cook, the server, the hostess, you name it. They're trying to be everything. No, run it like a restaurant.
Yeah.
No, I want what I like personally is I want my TC to be like the entire back end, because I'm going to tell you, I'm a shit show on the back end. That's not my strength. That's not who I am.
That's not where your time is best served. No. That's not where you're going to produce the most. At the end of the day, that's not where you're going to make the most money.
Exactly.
Might as well go and get a 9-to-5 job or whatnot. I'm actually both embarrassed and very proud to say that I have never put up an entire listing by myself on the MLS. If you told me today, go and list that property, I will have to call everyone and some for help. I've never done it before, and I don't plan on doing it. And I'm very proud to say that. That's just part of the leverage that our team has built out for me, and it has helped me produce and sell what I've done thus far. So you shouldn't be putting up listings.
I agree with you.
Taking listings, getting those contracts signed, but not putting them on the MLS.
And here's what I will say. I do think a lot of agents are receptive to TCs, because, and I'll tell you, if you don't have a TC, once again, even if this is your first transaction, 100% get one, because if not, you're wasting your time. Even if you're doing one deal, here's the thing. You can still be doing other money-producing activities. Go find other business, right? Now, I do want to talk about showing agents, because there's even high-producing agents that you and I both know who are these showing assistants just can't close the buyers the way that I can. So what would you say to somebody like that?
I would say you have to know where you're at with your client, right? What kind of relationship do you have with your client? How well do you know your client? If you're still showing properties as a buyer's agent, you're not also, leveraging every showing out unless you're confident that everyone is on the same page. So you do have to be careful about that. And same with the TC, right? At first, you're probably gonna go through several TCs. I will say though, you probably want to find someone that has a good that you have a good
relationship. You want them to be like your right hand.
Yes, personality. You're starting to build a brand, and part of that brand is your personality, your team's personality, your culture, and that's going to come with the person. So you can't just hire on someone who's if you're very outspoken, social media, this and that, your TC doesn't have to be on social media, but you all have to be able to get along, because that is going to translate to your clients. So you can't just hire any leverage also. You have to be very careful about who you're hiring.
And it's showing assistants in particular. And you'll go through a lot of showing assistants, because the whole goal of a showing assistant is generally speaking, they're newer agents that are getting into the business that want to essentially learn and grow, and so chances are going to go through showing assistants. I will tell you, for those people who have that objection, I will say this. in my opinion, that's not, you don't have to be at the property to show the value of the property or to show the value for yourself. That's because if you think that your value is just in opening up a door, like you're a glorified door opener, and I will tell you, I'm not that. I don't have to be at the property to close somebody, and I don't have to be at the property to I've walked enough properties at this point that I can look at pictures and I can tell you exactly what we're walking into.
You don't have to drive 30 minutes there or 30 minutes back to show your value to your clients because you've already shown it, you know.
A variation of that house. You get to the point where you've seen the same house time and time again that you're like, all right, we're going to walk in and I can see this and this and this and this. And here's, so I say all that to say, right, there are certain clients, like I would still go out and show, right? And I think that there's definitely a case-by-case basis, right? Like if you've got a $1.5 million buyer, probably not going to leverage that one out, right? But if I've got a client that I know, hey, going to be relaxed, going to be cool, you know, yes, of course I'm going to leverage that out. So, I mean, I would just say, once again, it's a case-by-case basis, but at the same time, I mean, my time is better suited doing the activities that are money-making activities. If they're the $7 an hour jobs, $10 an hour jobs, then I can leverage that out because even while I'm giving up a little bit in the front end, the money it's going to make me on the back end and the return on investment I'm going to get is going to be so much greater.
Do you want the way they phrased it was different, but do you want, you know, the entire grape or do you want a larger piece of the watermelon? Like,
exactly.
So going back to who you hire also, I hate you. Going back to, you know what I mean.
I think I get what you're saying. I think it may have been like a slice of watermelon and like the whole watermelon.
What did I say?
I don't know. I'm not familiar. I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
English was not my first language. Okay.
You're good.
So, anyways, going back to who you hire, though, I think the goal and the struggle with who you hire is that my goal personally would be to hire someone that gets so good at the position that they outgrow the position. With showing assistants and with buyer's agents, I think that happens very quickly. And the struggle with that is that, you know, that they might end up leaving, that they become so good that they end up leaving. But those are the people that you want to hire. Same with TCs. You want someone that becomes so good that they level out of that position. I think the goal lies in them staying, them wanting to stay, them choosing to stay because you've built that culture, you've built that team, you've built, you know, that attraction, that desire for them to want to stay.
Yeah, you treat them so good that they never want to leave. I also think that if you hire so well, it helps with the process of letting go and you know, really taking a step back. It's almost one of those things. You take one small step back to take two huge steps forward. So, you know, let me ask you this in terms of, because we both have a lot of leverage in our lives, like, you know, a ton. What about your leverage system personally has helped you out the most? Like what about your leverage has been great? You know, what things would you change? Like what kind of walk me through that.
I personally, being able to go out of town and having TC, listing manager, and BAs taking care of everything that's going on, like having those emails just coming back and forth, me knowing and having the peace of mind that my transaction is moving forward and I don't have to be responding to the 30 emails coming from the buyer's agent, the title company, and the lender, etc., because they're so good at what they do. They're so much better at it than I do, that I can step away and it's going to be fine. Now, also, I do that with the confidence of when I do get back into town, I'm going to be the best lead generator that there is.
Yeah.
Because I need to put up those transactions so that I can go away, etc., that cycle. Where I have been very bad at leveraging out is the buyers. And I go back and forth with my mentors and my coaches on saying no to buyers, leveraging them out, referring them out. And I am just so hesitant and reluctant to let them go. On the specific buyers, right? Again, 1.5, I'm not going to let that one go. But other ones, I probably should. And I refuse to because either I've invested so much time that, you know, it's that bias of, well, I'm already so far in. I'll get there sooner rather than later. And then it just keeps dragging on. Or the price point doesn't make sense or this and that. So that's where I've struggled the most is in letting go of buyers. Yeah, that's my biggest pain point.
So, and I'll tell you, like, you know, our leverage, I'm going to compare it to a restaurant because that's the easiest way. Like, I will tell you, I'm the server. Like, I couldn't tell you how to cook the food. Couldn't tell you how to do anything else like that. Can't tell you how to ring up the ticket. I don't know. But I will tell you, I know how to get you your food, and I know how to make sure you have one hell of an experience.
Yeah.
And that's my only job. And I will tell you, I enjoy that. You know, what I will tell you is whenever I get clients, whether or not they be, and with buyers, it's a little bit different, but really for all my clients, right? Like my ultimate goal is to make sure you have an amazing experience. And on the back end side, listen, that is not my strong suit, and I'm aware of that. And so other people help me out with it. Yep. And so like I will tell you, it took growing pains though, because it took me a while to let go and say, hey, you know, I trust you. And that's going to be natural, right? Not to mention, you got to kind of learn each other, and you got to have that trust and that faith that they're going to be able to get everything squared away. But like, you know, for instance, with my TC, it's to the point with my listings that I trust her to literally say anything. We'll touch base, and then I can carry it on from there. Yeah. She knows how I talk. I know how she talks, and we know how to basically come together and make it make sense for the client.
It's the right leverage. To
where I will tell you, like, it's the right leverage, right? Yep. And it helps me continue to go forward and do what I would do. And I'll tell you, I use this leverage for literally everything.
And I was going to say, you probably need to look at all areas of your businesses and all areas of your life and see where you can leverage it out elsewhere.
One, I want to piggyback off that, right? It doesn't even have to be for clients. I had an agent reaching out to me actually on your team for a referral form. And I said, I don't know where to get that. And so I reached out to my TC and I CC'd her on the email. Call me? And I went ahead and I had my TC send that over.
I want to know who that is. You can tell me after the podcast.
You know, it's just,
I want to know.
I'm a pro's pro.
I say that also. Like, think about what it could do for you in your personal life or in your other businesses, right? In it flips. I am also proud to say I don't step foot in my flips. Like after the sale, like I just don't go to them, and it was tough. It was very hard for me, especially because that's something that I enjoy it as much. I mean, I enjoy it a lot. It doesn't feel like work either. So hard for me to stay away and to be able to trust that, you know, it's being handled without me having to be there. That I have feet on the ground and eyes there for me, and that when I get the keys back to list it, it's going to be done properly. And that's very hard. I mean, there is one thing that I refuse to leverage out. I've said it before, and I'll say it, and I'm going to continue to do this. I want to clean my flips until I just can't anymore because I just enjoy it. But I will leverage out. I will leverage that out one day also. But think about it in your other businesses. What can you leverage out?
Or even personal life.
Right.
I know people who have literally leveraged out their schedule, like their personal schedules. People who pick up their kids. Like people who go off and do laundry for them, grab their groceries. I do actually have people who grab my groceries. I do that one.
Personal chefs.
I don't have a personal chef. I wish. A personal driver. Like, listen, if you ever get to the point where you have a personal driver, my number's down below. My number's down below. But guys, if you want to know how to get more leverage within your business, feel free to reach out to Johanna or I, and we will be back next week. JoJo and Nate are signing off.
Gosh.